Okay, this video is showing the basics of how to use PlotPlot, which is an app to help authors organize their plots, especially when the plots get more complicated. So I'm just going to do an example here. The example is we're going to take Star Wars A New Hope, Episode 4, as if it's a book, and I'm going to show how I would use PlotPlot to add the different threads. So first thing I'm going to do here is create a thread. This will be Rebels versus the Empire. And inside here, actually I'm going to add more threads. I'm going to add Luke Skywalker part in the rebellion. I'm going to add Han Solo's plot. And then finally, Luke becoming a Jedi. So there may be more plot threads in the story, but I'm keeping it simple. So inside the Rebels versus the Empire, I'm going to add a new entry. And this entry will be, I'm copying and pasting, but so I pasted the notes for the entry and they appear over here. We see a small rebel ship desperately running from a massive Imperial Star Destroyer. This opening visual establishes a classic David versus Goliath conflict and promises that rebels must find a clever way to overcome the Empire's overwhelming might. So one thing you might notice is the app created a summary for for the notes here, a desperate flight through the stars. Um, I don't necessarily like the voice of this summary, so I'm going to make a new voice. I'm going to make a new title, and I'm going to say "Small Rebel Ship Fleeing from Big Empire Ship." So that's my new title. And since this is the first entry in this thread or beat, this is going to be the promise. So I'm specifically marking this as a promise. All right. So the next entry inside here, I'm going to go to add entry again. And notice since I have the previous entry already selected, it's going to give me the option of saying before, same chapter, or after. And that's basically saying the new entry that I'm adding could come before the same chapter as or after the entry I already have selected. So I happen to know that I want the next one to come after. So this is Princess Leia hides the plans inside the droid. And notice now the summary is a little bit more closer to my voice that I used here, but I'm going to modify this. Hides plans inside R2, D2 launches escape pod to desert planet. All right, now I got another beat, which is going to come after this one. Same plot thread. This is going to be, well, I'll just paste it in. So this is the Empire allows the Millennium Falcon to escape the Death Star with the tracking beam attached, which allows the Empire to find the hidden rebel base. And then, and remember this is like simplified. So I'm going to add one more entry at the end, and this is the final beat for this thread. It's basically the rebel fleet destroys the Death Star. So now the summary that the AI generates is a lot closer to my voice because I've given it 2 manual entries, so now it's doing a better job. Um, having taking all these notes and converting it into a 1 sentence summary is super handy because often you need to be able to refer to these things just by the first sentence. So this is a really cool feature. And since this is the end of this Rebels versus Empire thread, then this is the payoff. All right, so now I'm going to add entries for the rest of these, but I'm not going to bore you, so I'm going to pause the recording and then resume once everything's added. Okay, I went ahead and added the beats to the other plot threads, so now they each have 4. This last one I added was part of Luke becoming a Jedi, and the summary is Luke trusts the Force, destroys the Death Star. All right, so you'll notice that in the chapter view here, all of these beats are in separate chapters, and so there's 16 chapters, and this is not what we want, because a lot of these beats come in the same scene in the movie, or if we're pretending like we're writing chapters in the book. So we need to tell the app which of these come in the same scenes. So let's see, how do I want to do this? So the ending, like Luke trusts the Force destroys the Death Star, that is also mentioned up here. Rebel fleet exploits the flaw, destroys the Death Star. So I want to tell the app that this beat comes in the same chapter as this beat. So there's several ways I can do that. One of them is to just take this and drag it right here and then drop it. And now for the final chapter, these two beats are in the same chapter. Let me go ahead and undo that and show you another way to do it. Another way to do it is, instead of dragging from here to here, I can drag from here to here. Same thing, same chapter. Notice it says same chapter. Drop it. So that's another way to do it. Another way to do it is I can come over here and say, let's see, rebels destroy the Death Star. So I can just add the constraint over here, and I can search for Death Star and just do that. Oh, except it was before. Let me undo that. I didn't want it to be before. I wanted it to be in the same chapter there. So did I do that right? Oh yeah, okay. So interestingly, it put them in the same chapter, but it put them before these beats. So, and that's because I haven't set the constraints for these ones. So I happen to know that Luke firing the winning shot, destroying the Death Star, is in the same scene as this one. So I'm just going to drag this up here. And I also happen to know that Han swooping in with the Millennium Falcon and saving Luke from Vader is the same scene. So I'm also going to. All right, so now chapter 13 has these 4 beats. They're in 4 different plot threads: Rebels versus Empire, Luke Skywalker's part in the rebellion, Han Solo, and Luke becoming a Jedi. And the app has put them, or now I've told the app that these all need to go in the same chapter. So now it's put them in the same chapter, and it's saying this is the chapter 13. So what about these other ones, especially the ones at the beginning? Small rebel ship fleeing from big Empire ship. Luke gazes at twin suns, yearning for greater purpose. Which one comes first? Well, we know that this is the very beginning, and him staring at the twin suns comes later. So what I can do is I can drag this up here, and then instead of dropping it in the middle, see how there's these little arrows? This means the thing that I'm dragging needs to come before. See the up arrow? It needs to come before. So now it puts small rebel ship fleeing from big ship before, and then Luke gazes at twin suns comes after. But now we've got this problem of Obi-Wan reveals the Force and offers Luke his father's lightsaber. We know that this scene comes after this scene. So let me find another way to show you how to set these constraints. This is Luke learning to use the Force. So I could just drag this and drop it like that, but I can also do this. Come over here and see there's also an up arrow here. So this is another way to do the same thing. So drop that there. And now we've got small rebel ship fleeing from big ship, twin suns, Obi-Wan But now we've got Han Solo demanding steep price to Alderaan way up here, and we know that that at the very least comes after Luke gazing at the twin suns. And the thing about these constraints is when you tell it comes after, it doesn't have to mean right after. It just means literally sometime after. So as you're constructing your plot, you might not know exactly where it's going to come, but you know that it's got it. You know that one beat has to come after another beat, and that's the beauty of this app. Is when you set these constraints, it will show you the you know a, a plausible organization of chapters based on your constraints. So it helps you. It kind of takes the effort of having to figure out your chapters away from you. It figures out the chapters for you, and that's something that I really wanted when I developed this app. So Han Solo demands steeper price for passage to Alderaan. I I could drag it way down here, but there's another shortcut where I can hold down Control and then select this, and it will find this entry over here, the one that I selected over here. So we also see that Luke discovers his aunt and uncle murdered, commits to the Force, so we know the Han scene comes after that one. So I'm going to drag that here, say that I'm going to release it there. All right, let's see how we're doing with the continuity here. Small rebel ship fleeing from big ship. Luke gazes at twin suns. Obi-Wan reveals the Force. Princess Leia hides plans inside R2-D2. So that one comes before Obi-Wan reveals the Force. I can't remember. Oh, it does come before Luke gazes at the twin suns, I'm pretty sure, because we don't meet Luke until after this. So I'm going to drag this here and say this comes before. All right. Small rebel ship, big ship, Princess Leia. Luke gazes at twin suns. Empire plants tracking beacon on Millennium Falcon. That's going to be, okay, that's going to be after Luke discovers the hidden message. And he discovers the hidden message before they meet Obi-Wan, so I'm going to put that here. Luke discovers his aunt and uncle murdered, commits to the Force. That comes after Obi-Wan reveals the Force. It's saying there's something wrong here that it doesn't like. Huh. Oh yeah, okay. That's right, because they come after. But Luke discovers his aunt and uncle murdered is before Luke rescues the princess. So I'll put that there. Han Solo demanding steep price does come before Luke rescues the princess. Luke practicing the blaster bolts comes after Han demands his steep price and before Luke rescues the princess. Han agrees to the rescue mission comes before Luke rescues the princess. All right, so I think that's pretty much it. I mean, you can put these in the same chapters as you want, but I think we've got it all in the right order here. And notice that I didn't have to actually assign these to any chapters. The app just did it for me, which is that that's like a task that a human shouldn't have to do, and I don't really want to do that. So having an app that does this for me is super handy. And now that you've got these all in order, now you can start to plan out plan out the chapters in more detail. So I'm going to stop the video here, and I'm going to make another video showing how you might plan out the chapters in more detail.